This podcast contains mature language. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to a podcast all about running 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. House of Crit would like to formally invite you to join us here, behind the screen.
Alright guys, welcome to another Behind the Screen. I am David.
I'm Eddie.
I'm Paul.
And I am Rob.
Awesome. So, kind of a interesting question that I have. I've seen this happen time and time again. When maybe they die, maybe the character leaves and comes back as someone else. How do you, as a DM, how do you guys introduce new characters midway through a campaign?
Why would we be asking that kind of question? I wonder.
Because you've died a lot.
I mean, I have died almost every campaign that I've played. I have not died in Rob's. Died in all Paul's.
Several times?
I can't die on my own because I made it.
Yeah.
We'll see, you found the loophole on how not to die.
There you
Just start running your own game.
So, I haven't lost a one of my players' characters during my campaign. Only because I'm more of a storyteller. I want to tell you my story instead of me writing it in a book.
Okay. Well, then let's just do a hypothetical then. As you're DMing your campaign and you have to introduce someone else, whether they just wrote a new character, they left and came in as a different guy, or died. What?
Or even if we have another person that wants to play.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, exactly. If you want to add in another character at any point throughout the middle of the campaign story, how do you go ahead and do that?
Where are they? What's the next encounters?
Okay.
What is the storyline that's going at the same time?
Mm-hmm.
And then Lord's Alliance, something like that, coming in from like another army, and he's just joining in because he got sent out.
So you tie in the story.
It has to be story relatable, because if you don't actually take that into consideration, then it's gonna be hard for you to even introduce that character.
Right.
I hate when somebody's just like, this person just appears in the bar. How are you? Hey, here's a beer. Welcome to the party. I don't fly with those kind of ideas.
Like in Lord of the Rings?
Well, Lord of the Rings is different because you have a common goal. You have leaders from different areas, and they're all coming together because they're, very well known in their territories and coming to assist. Mm-hmm. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's just how it is, right?
So do you let the other players know? Do you kind of just do it with that other new person and or new character if it's the same person?
Well, if, let's say your character died.
Okay.
And then you...
Doesn't happen, but yeah.
Yeah, okay. So we will have a discussion as to, like, what's their background. How can I tie it into the story? I'll give you different, groups that you can be aligned with.
Okay.
If you're chaotic, evil, or something like that because you want to play something like that, then what were you doing before? What's your plan for this campaign? How do you want to play it? And from there on, I would actually start adjusting my story in order to bring you in.
Okay.
But I'm very overly prepared most of the time. So story-wise, I already know that even if you come from point D, I know how I can make it come into point A. It's the DM's responsibility to make it work.
Okay.
So if you bring me something really crazy, like I was a bird in a nest and it just got transformed by magic or something like that, that's just something odd. I'll make it work, but it's more difficult the more crazy your story is.
Right. So you have to have a why.
There's always a why.
Yeah.
What do you guys do on
Rob?
yours?
I pretty much agree with everything you just said. There has to be a story behind a new character coming in. Whether it be a new player's coming in, why? Why is that? Why is another person coming in? Why are they interrupting, a group that's already established?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe interrupting is not the right term, but that's what I'm using.
Right.
Or
interacting with their judgment.
Well,
Why are they there?
yeah, why, say if all of us are out hanging out and, we have a common goal,
Yeah.
say in real life, why would we pick up, Joe Schmo over here? Oh yeah, why don't you come with us? You can come crash at our house. We're going camping. no, yeah, we're gonna trust you with our lives and part of the loop. I mean, there has to be a reason why.
It's monetary, because it's almost always like, hey, I'm assembling a team of people to do this common goal, and you're hiring employees basically.
I mean, that would be level ones all starting together for a campaign. But if you already have the campaign going, I mean, maybe he was sent, like you said, from the Lord's Alliance. Maybe he is the son of a king. Maybe he just wants to get out and create his his own fame, and he heard about your exploits. I mean, there was something that has to be a catalyst for him to meet up with the rest of your party.
I do like random stories. For example, two opposite armies. People are like suddenly they I want to get out of here. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. And you meet up with somebody from the other army that you already knew maybe before, but turn out to be in the other territory. Something like that could work wonders for a story, because it's completely opposite. You normally wouldn't meet. Somehow there's a same goal. They want ring.
I mean, it could be someone as simple as this is a childhood friend of mine, and I haven't been in contact with my clan for months, and they sent the new person to come find out what happened to me. I mean, it could be something as simple as that.
And it's all, I mean, mechanics at the same time, like story wise. How are you going to implement that new character mid campaign for X whatever reason? How it's going to happen?
I don't think that I would personally have them find them out in the wild or in a dungeon. I think that's a little...
It makes no sense.
Yeah, unless they were going through a dungeon and say Paul's character died or disappeared or just left because he hated that character. Not that it's ever happened. And he was like, well, I want to play something a little bit different. I'm like, okay, all of us are inside of a dungeon or some kind of underground dwelling. He could be a captive. I mean, he could start off as an NPC. Like, hey, this is, you find this and, you hear whimpering. So you go over and you investigate, and there's someone that's chained up.
That's cool.
You free him, that would give him a reason to want to join your party. Now there's a trust thing. You freed him for no reason. It was completely altruistic. Or you can kill him. He has to roll again. I mean, there's always that too.
I try to kill him while he's chained.
Yeah.
Murder hobos, please don't.
Hold on, let me go write that down.
Yeah, I know, right? Robbie's like...
But I was stealthed and no one knew what happened.
Yes. Why is his head off?
I don't know.
I found him that way.
Yeah, that's how I found him.
He was like that when I found him.
Look, NPCs, some assembly required. I don't know.
Necromancer.
Battery's not included.
Yeah, I mean, there has to be a story. I mean, there has to be some... Like, if you guys are halfway through something, it would be unfortunate for that one player to have to wait out a couple, 3 or 4 more sessions until you get back to the end where, like, oh, hey, we found you. We've been looking for you for months.
Yeah. How much do you put onto the players as the DM for that?
I would say that's a 50-50 kind of thing, because I'm not...
Is this something you do beforehand?
Well, if your character, if you were running in my campaign, your character died, you and I would get together.
Okay.
Because whatever your new character stuff is none of anybody else's business.
Right.
That's all stuff that you would, divulge in your own time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, even when I start campaign, I don't like everyone knowing what everybody else is playing. It's like, oh, well, hi, I'm Rob and I'm a rogue. And, I've come to stabby and eat beef jerky.
He likes beef jerky.
I would rather...
I think he likes beef jerky.
He does like beef jerky.
I would rather that come out through story
Yeah.
than just common knowledge.
Okay.
That makes a great like story point right there when you introduce like snippets of what you are.
Yeah, like we're walking down and say David's playing a rogue, and he, we don't know that's his deal, and he just slices someone's
Jerky.
purse open, and he was like, next thing you know, he's walking by flipping coins. Like, I thought you were broke. He's like, well, I found it.
It was laying on the ground. I swear.
I found it in a hole.
Right.
I would appreciate my players coming to me like, this is what I want to do. I'm like, okay, how would you want to come in?
Yeah.
Instead of like, oh, well, I have 5 options, and you have to decide between these 5. I don't think that's fair.
Right. We learned that he likes rogues and beef jerky.
Yeah.
Yes.
Got it.
Yes.
Okay.
Not necessarily in that order.
Oh, okay.
Well, I always tend to also ask my DMs, like, what do you expect from me as a player? Because I know that's one of Paul's favorite questions. Like, what do you expect me to do? And then he'll ask you the same thing. Like, what do you expect me as a DM to, like, bring out of your character throughout the story?
Don't kill me.
That's not guaranteed
Nope.
any campaign.
Mm-mm.
But it's this discussion that, like me knowing the lore or some of the lore of the story really helps me as a player, like decide what direction. I'm like, how about, because I talked to you about my cleric. He's actually a spy in like an underground ring. Yet he's a cleric, you know, man of faith. But he's trying to bring the Church of Mask and like try to spread the faith. And at the same time, he has to actually have this character development where he attempts to actually make contact with different agents in order to distribute whatever information he had.
Which was hard to do since you can't talk.
But thieves can't, which was part of it. So that kind of helped out a lot.
So also, before we go a little bit further with that, like, how do you also handle then, we've handled coming in a new character, how do you handle the death if it was one? Or how do you handle, like, as a DM? Because, I mean, again, there's there's the party of itself that just lost their comrade, whether it was a relation, like they were brethren, or they knew each other, or they just went through epic battles with each other. I mean, again, you're now brethren in arms. Like, how do you handle that tying in with also blending in a new character? So aside the new character.
It's hard because the new character is automatically the odd person out.
Yeah.
And if it's roleplayed properly, it should stay that way for a little while, I believe.
Right.
Like, say, if one of my characters dies, hopefully doesn't, knock on wood, and I have to come up with a new one, and I come in, I would not expect everybody to trust my new character
Right.
the way that they trusted my old character.
Right.
It's not the same.
It has to be
It's not the
played
same
in.
entity.
Yeah.
And just like I would have player knowledge of everything that's happened, but my character knowledge has to stay different.
Right. And then I also assume, on a DM perspective, you want your players to not just be like, all right, that guy died. Let's just move on. We didn't remember him anymore. He's dead. We have a new guy. Right? Like, I think there's something into the players as a player.
That's up to the players.
If you take into account, for example,
Maybe they hated
bringing
that.
another show, Critical Role, Mollymock keeps being brought back like name-wise throughout the whole story, and I think that's phenomenal because obviously actors, they're very highly trained actors. So, and Matt Mercer's such a great like DM story-wise that he keeps introducing these hints as to how people are gonna mention him and how to use him in the story, even though he's already gone. So storytelling-wise, perfect like analogy.
So you're saying that's up to the DM to continue that and making sure that his lore
it's up
isn't
to the players
dead.
also, because again, it's not everything falls onto the DM. The DM is there to help the players interact and have an entertaining fun and like go through the storyline and everything, even if you die. But it's up to the players and the DM responsibility to actually bring those characters back into
Unless
the
the players
conversation.
are like, thank God he's not around anymore.
I mean, that could be it. Like everybody
That's
hated
part of the
like a
story.
character or something like that, and they're like, "Why are you mentioning that douche?" You know.
Or
Hopefully not, but it could go that way.
Or
yeah.
you have a player that just doesn't mesh well with the group. That character dies. The person's like, well, I don't want to play anymore. Thank God.
Yeah. Bye. Well, it's good because you want to keep that mold that you
Yeah.
already have. I mean, again, whether there is a storyline where they family grew up together or whatever, but again, they're brother in arms. They've come through some shit.
Yeah, absolutely. And, just like with anything else, I mean, like, say if something happened to any one of us, like in real life, I mean, we wouldn't be like, well, fuck it, we're going to replace Paul with somebody else.
Yeah.
How about that guy down the road? He looks tall,
That's the only requirement.
Well, I mean, there's like 3 or 4 of us.
I
Yeah.
mean, you know what I mean.
Not me.
And in all honesty, I couldn't fathom doing this with a different group of people.
Right. Oh, I agree with that.
And then even if something happened, like say Eddie, you were out sick and we had somebody else come in, I'm going to compare.
I'd be very jealous.
Well, I'm going to say that I would compare whoever sat in your chair to what you do.
Right. See, that's a good point too, because now it's not just idea of, okay, your characters and their story, but it's the real people who are playing that. And again, we've been playing together for so long that you're right, there is that camaraderie that we have that's been built, and then either adding in a new person, like randomly and again in the middle of a campaign, there's a lot to be said with that also, especially if they're a new person that the group doesn't know. Maybe one person knows them, obviously that's why they're coming in. But I like that aspect too, because you're not just tying in a story that's been written in, but it's also a life that's coming into it.
But even, like, say, with my wife who plays,
Yeah.
and we've all played D&D with her, like, say, if she came in, I mean, it would still disrupt our flow, so it'd have to be a good reason.
Right.
Not just because, like, well, I want to play. Well,
It's a change.
Sorry about your luck. Yeah.
Right. Whether it's in or out, it's a change.
Yeah.
I like that. Paul, what are your thoughts?
You're being so quiet.
Yeah.
I know.
Way too
well,
much.
Huh.
Yeah, I just haven't been able to shut up today.
True story.
Well, for me, there's kind of a lot that goes on because I do run very narratively heavy games. Even if I'm running a pre-written module, I try to pack as much story and story hooks into it as possible because to me that's the point of the game, really. And I mean, I agree largely, overwhelmingly with everything you guys have already said. Where, you know, if a player wants to join a game, you know, they need to sit with me, they need to work through some things. But it's very to walk a little bit away to get the full picture. It's very similar to what I do in a session 0, is since we don't typically start campaigns with individual one-on-one sessions, like how did you get from nobody to level 1 kind of thing. You know, I like to do a session 0 where everyone makes their characters together, because it's just kind of fun to see what other people come up with. Someone comes up with an idea that they may not use, you think is really cool, so you can riff off of that idea. And then also too, it makes it much easier for why a group of random yahoos are going together on whatever the adventure happens to be.
Is that what we are?
Because I mean, like in older D&D, like you just showed up at the dungeon with a fighter and a cleric and some dude who can cast some spells, and it's like,
So
we don't
checking for traps.
Yeah, and yeah, either that henchman you're going to throw in front of you to spring the traps and be like, he found it.
We haven't tried that yet.
Or wait, didn't we find the same trap 3 or 4 times?
What? Did you find any traps? Did
Maybe.
you find them with your face?
You did.
I did.
Too. Me too.
I found them.
It was a group effort.
It
Group
was.
effort.
Teamwork.
It was not a group effort.
It was a team effort.
Kismet's like this.
Nope.
Yeah,
We're the trap finding brother. And
I
Yeah.
successfully managed that trap each time.
yeah, the trap finding duo.
what trap?
You know, like I said, the players come up with the reasons for why they'd be adventuring together in the first place. And I like having a lot of, not all of it, but a good chunk of the motivations the players generate. Because I try to be pretty forthcoming with what the campaign is about. I hint at some ideas as to what they might find in it, so that they make characters that are apropos to the campaign. You know, if it's going to be like a very social interaction style game, I don't want like 4 barbarians who are completely illiterate being played at the table. Like,
Why not?
I mean,
awesome.
there is always room for that style of game, but then now everyone's playing characters that aren't really geared for that style of gameplay. So
Now, to that point though, would you make a character get re-rolled if a guy, like let's say a new person, comes in the middle, and they're like, I want to play this guy, and you're like, yeah, it doesn't really fit and jive with what's going on.
I have done that.
You give them options.
I tell them, like, if the story's already underway and a new person wants to come in, in real life, a person who I think would be a good fit for the table, because that to me is just as important as what type of character you're playing.
Yeah, kind of like what Rob was talking about.
Like if your wife wanted to join us, like we've all played together before, she'd be a great addition to the table because we all mesh, we all have always had a great time. But so in that instance, like, okay, I know my first check off, are we all going to get along? That's fine. So then I bring them up to speed, kind of where the story's at. If I need to, I will seed with them a plot hook so that they have motivations to bring to the group that they're going to be joining. Like they come with a plot thread, or they come with some relevant information for what's going on, for the group to have incentive to bring this person along, and then also likewise the same incentive for this person to join up.
Now, does it differ maybe a little bit if like a couple players die right out, and then now we have to just go in and do new characters? Or
God forbid something like that should actually happen.
Not going with
TPK?
Well, TPK, that's a totally different thing because everybody's toast in a TPK.
Yeah.
Well, you were saying planting like a seed in it, so that's like if you have prior knowledge and you kind of foreshadow it, now you're bringing in somebody because you knew about it ahead of time.
Yeah, so
versus them just dying outright.
for instance, like I was running a campaign. It originally started with 5 players. After the 3rd or 4th session, one of them dropped, and then maybe a session after that, the other one dropped out of the campaign. Now, as luck would have it, their characters were incapacitated, not killed, but for story reasons, their characters were easily written out.
Oh.
And so had another friend want to play and join the group, and they were a member of a certain faction that the group was already starting to deal with. And so they came in, I gave them relevant campaign information, and so that this new person was playing kind of like a guide into this new avenue that the story was starting to progress into. So the group like needed this person to kind of lead them to where they were going to go in the first place, and this person needed them to get the job done. So, that meeting of motivations, I think, is essential when it comes to bringing in a new character. And then what type of character they want to play, always I'll ask them straight up, like, not specifically what class. I really don't like asking, hey, what class you want to play?
Right.
I like saying, okay, what type of character do you want to play? Do you want to play, like a martial fighting type of character? Do you want to play like some type of spell casting character? Like, give me the concept of the character, and we will find the class and mechanics to suit the idea. Because you can get to a concept multiple different ways with the classes. It doesn't necessarily have to be rigorously following the class mechanics, even if like we talked about in a previous episode, to get to that concept, since it's going to be later in the campaign, is this a multi-class character? For instance, do we need to make a blend?
A paladin rogue.
To get you the always with the paladin rogue. Everybody wants to be Vaxeldan. I don't understand why. But he was an amazing character. Check out Critical Role Campaign 1 in addition to our campaign for good times. But, however we need to get there, we're going to get there, and I will work with them extensively to get what they want that best locks into what we're already doing. I don't think the player would have a good time playing something really out of sync with the campaign.
Okay. I have a 2-part kind of additive question. So
Go ahead.
One, is there a time that you could add in a temporary type character that just come and goes maybe for a couple sessions? And then the second would be, is there anywhere that you could put in that type of character as almost like I don't want to say evil guy, but maybe someone that's going a little bit against the group, where they're kind of, the group has to kind of go against them into whether it's battling or it's strategy, and now they're like, let's say they help out the local militia that's fighting against your group. Is that something that could be tied in? Because it's something I've never seen or heard of.
You can. The mechanics of
Instead
5th
of an
edition.
NPC.
The mechanics of 5th edition are pretty. They're not straight up explicit, but it's kind of one of the big unspoken rules that player versus player combat is not really a thing, because the way that the mechanics of a player character class are designed to handle an NPC,
Right.
not another player. Because players, the design is that NPCs and monsters have low damage output and high hit points. Player characters are designed with low hit points, high damage output.
Where are these low hit point characters, NPCs at?
Not in his campaign.
Okay.
They're there.
Okay, good.
A commoner is only going to have 1 to 4 hit points. You guys are just been playing characters who don't willy-nilly go around murdering everybody they see, thankfully.
That's good.
Write that down too.
We know you already had that written down. Don't
Yeah.
lie.
That's
Don't
fair.
don't let. I'm sorry. The passive insight over here. You
Yeah,
see right
that's-
through that.
That's fair.
So is there a temporary type character that could be played into, though, where the
Sure.
guy comes in just a couple rounds and it's like a call-in, like a celebrity roll-in or something like that?
Oh yeah, I've had guest players before. I love having that, especially with like new people who've never played D&D. I've only maybe even heard about it.
Does it change how you handle the story play? Because we just talked a lot about how you bring in with a new character that's going to be implemented throughout the story indefinitely versus a temp character.
Is the point of the story to create friction within the party?
On two different versions, yes. So one could that be, and you were saying not so much because the way 5th edition is melded and played out is it shouldn't be, because like you said, that makes sense. Where the mechanics are and the numbers don't really make sense to do PvP.
Yeah,
So not so much against the friction, but more or less of if you do have a temp character that comes in, like how do you storyline that versus storylining a full-on now new story? Because we now know how you guys DM for bringing in a new character, full out playing throughout with the group and becoming part of it. As a temp character, how is that different?
It would depend if for your two-parter. Again, two different answers there. Are they an ally for the party, or are they some type of adversary, or not even necessarily an adversary, but are they somebody whose goal is perpendicular to that of the party?
Could that happen? Because that sounds
Sure.
interesting.
Absolutely. And there's a million ways to do anything. But if they're an ally character, if it's a guest character, if it's an experienced player,
Yeah.
then we'll do up a whole character, even if they only play it for a session or two. Because, like, let's say a friend comes in from out of town, hasn't played D&D in forever, but they know how to play.
Yeah.
Be like, here's an ally. Let's just make up a character for you real quick, since you already kind of know what you're doing. And since time is of the essence, I would say, okay, these are your motivations. This is why you'd be joining them, and then not to shoehorn them in, but I would have a very explicit reason why they would be with this particular person for a only designated amount of time. The character's not going to be with them until unknown time and date. If it was some type of adversarial character, that's something different. That you intimately need to work with that player, because you're bringing them on your side of the screen at that point. They are no longer really a player
Right.
anymore.
That would be like, for example, if they're designated big baddie, but they're part of the group, or like they're gonna turn on you later on, but you already spoke with that player. That's the plan throughout.
Yeah, you have to have trust in your players to be able to handle the workload you're about to put on them. Playing a duplicitous character as a DM is easy because the DM is everything in the world.
Right.
So the signal to noise ratio the DM is throwing out is usually pretty low to begin with. Do the players always trust what the DM is telling them? If the DM's playing an NPC, it's up to the PCs to believe the NPC the DM is playing. In one campaign where for 2 sessions,
That was just.
I had him play the big bad that took the form of his character, who had been knocked out and taken in a previous episode.
That was so much fun.
That was amazing.
That was
Sounds cool.
It was such great times, but I had to
Right.
I had to get with
We're not
Rob.
cool like that.
No, we're not.
Not yet. You guys haven't leveled up yet.
Oh.
But soon.
Level 5.
Wow.
Wow.
I took Rob.
Are we there yet?
Pull the page out of Rob's book for sure.
But I had to sit with Rob in between sessions, and I came to him and I said, okay, I have an idea for this. Is this something you'd be interested in potentially doing?
You mean Born for?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Rob's like,
I believe my response was hell yes.
Yeah.
Probably.
But then I worked out entirely with him. I was like, okay, this is exactly what you're doing. This is why you're doing it. Like, the player has to be down for it, and then also down for knowing they don't get to make a lot of choices doing that. Because it's like they're borrowing your car. They don't get to go very far with it, and they don't get to do anything crazy with it. They got to bring it back
wait.
the way they gave it, or
Right.
there's going to be some problems.
Yeah. Was that one of your highlight moments in D&D?
It was definitely up there.
Up there for
That
sure.
was-
It seems like right up your gameplay for sure.
My wife, once again, was in that campaign, and she didn't speak to me for like a day after.
Yeah.
So
For
you
how
did a
long?
good job
For
then.
like a day, she was super mad.
Oh, he sold it perfectly.
Oh, I
It was
bet.
fantastic. I worked with that. He
He's
was
getting excited all over again.
He's like,
Mhm. He's coming right back to it.
Good times.
So
That's
he played the villain who knew the easiest way to get to this magical item that they were all racing towards simultaneously was ingratiate himself with the party in a hidden fashion. So I told Rob, I was like, okay, you're playing this character. This is why they did what they did, and you need to run with it until you get to this point. So I gave him the starting condition. I gave him the end condition for running the character.
He was a wrench in the cog to kind of.
Yeah, and we also worked out a trigger for when he was going to hand it back to me.
Gotcha.
he's like, but I don't want to.
Yeah.
I gave
No.
him the moment. I gave him the moment. Like, all right, and this is that moment.
Right.
It was a vague moment. It was right around here is where you want to flip the switch. I'm like, oh, I can do that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I still wanted it to be fun for him, so I didn't explicitly say, okay, step 1, do this. Step 2, do that. And I was like, you could riff with it for a little bit, but I need you to stay inside this box for me. And when a player's doing that for you, also as the DM at any time, you could take that character back because it's like, okay, this character's about to do things you, as a player, I can't let you know about. So you could always reel that in. And then same thing to bring it back to them playing an ally character. If they're only going to be for a short period of time, you can work with that player and say, hey, look, I need your character, since they're only going to be here for a short time, I need you to be about this plot point or to enforce this motivation type of thing. Like they're not a full player in that instance, it's best to do with experienced players. I would never do that to somebody who's never really done it before. If I was to bring somebody into a campaign who'd never played before and wanted to see what D&D was like and just test the waters, they weren't up for making the commitment to playing yet, I would honestly probably give them an NPC to pilot, which in the monster stats and NPC stats, the same type of stat block, it's very, very truncated. They don't have a huge list of things that they can do the way that a player's character sheet is this encyclopedia of information after a certain point.
Right.
It's like it has on their little stat block, it'll say like actions, and it'll list what actions they can do. It'll say skills, and it'll have like the 3 that they're good at, just to say like, okay, these are the few things that you can do.
I feel special then. I got to play a real character.
Yeah,
I was a real boy.
I'm a real boy.
I came in and I played a real character. That was fun.
Okay.
Because I was a brand new player to D&D, completely out, like, again, we kind of met all playing into this, and it was fun. That's something I had never played D&D before, coming in as the player, and trying it out was really cool. Again, gaming and stuff like that played a bit of where my mentality came from, so at least I had something to base it off of. But I like that where you're saying it's more of like, okay, if you've never played, you don't have really any backstory on playing role-playing games, here's your structure. And it kind of makes it easy, I guess, from a DM and a player perspective, because that's a mold, right?
Yeah, you want to ease them in as much as possible because the rules of the game.
Here, read this.
Yeah, you see the display of
There
books
you
in
go.
front of us. It's like, okay, yeah, read everything here. No, you don't.
Yeah.
It's an immediate way to lose a potential
Thank
player.
you.
that way.
Is it though?
Yeah, thank you.
But,
Yeah, I would've
also
been
to expand on that is that they also they also have to remember that you don't have to do different voices. You don't have to physically act out everything that your character does. I know there's a lot of people out there that are afraid to do it because they're, I don't want to be embarrassed. I don't look like an idiot in front of everybody. It's not the point at all. The only voice I do is my own.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if I'm playing a man, a woman, a child, a dragon,
Paladin Rogue.
a paladin rogue, that
Yes, Eddie.
has to sneak attack. It's whatever it is. It's still my voice. Even when I'm narrating, it's still my voice.
Mm-hmm.
I have not been blessed with that gift. Paul has. Paul can do voices pretty convincingly. Me, not so much. So to avoid my embarrassment, I don't do it.
I can only do crickets.
That is true.
That is very true.
It's scary.
It's a spooky talent.
Yes, it is.
It's interesting. So, I mean, I like that. You guys have definitely kind of similarly, each one of you has tied in characters that come in new in a similar way. And you're right, it is story-based. I mean, again, that's why the books were written to begin with, is you want to tie in that story and make sure that it jives well with the group, with the characters, and also the alignments. I like it.
Well, thank you for watching another episode of Behind the Screen. You got the group right here. This will be episode 8.
This will be episode 9, actually.
Ooh,
We're getting up there, guys.
I'm always like, every single episode I repeat the same thing. Well, remember to like, subscribe, comment right below if you have any questions for us, DMs, our players, and we'll be happy to answer that for you in future episodes. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
See you guys.
Thank you for listening to Behind the Screen. Join us next time for another roundtable discussion about running Dungeons & Dragons.